It was great. I first met him in like about 5 years before that, about in 1988, after one of his bad concerts when he was playing Madison Square Garden in New York. I was just a fan. I was about 17, and I attended one of his concerts. And like my one dream in life was to meet Michael Jackson. So I was like, okay, I'm here. I'm at his concert. I have to figure out how to meet this man. So I did my research before I went to the show, and I found out that Michael always stayed at the same hotel when he came to New York. So I got a room at the Hemsley Palace. It's the Hemsley Palace in New York, and so that's where I stayed when I attended his bad concert. Luckily, I had an understanding family. My aunt drove me there and took me to the concert, so we went together, me and my aunt, and so I stayed at his hotel. So that gave me like an inside track to Michael, because there were tons of fans behind barricades outside of the hotel, not even able to get in. But since I had a room there, I just waltzed on in, so I figured out what floor Michael was staying on, and I tried to go to the elevator to just go on up to his floor. And of course, you couldn't just go on up to Michael's floor. You needed like a special key to do that, which of course I didn't have. So after the concert was over, we went back to the hotel, and I saw like a lot of celebrities coming into the lobby. I saw like Janet Jackson and Quincy Jones, and I was thinking, Michael must be having a party or something, an after party, and I need to be there. So I figured out a way to get up to his floor, which was like the top floor of this high-rise hotel. I think it was like 40 floors or 50 floors, something crazy like that. Instead of taking the elevator, which I couldn't get into because I didn't have the, pass to get up on the elevator, I took the stairs. I walked 50 flights of stairs to get to Michael's floor, and it worked. I didn't know if when I got to his floor, if the door would even open, but it did. And it let me out right there at Michael's suite. Of course, there were security guards surrounding it. But, and like all the celebrities were filing in for this after party that he was having in his hotel suite after his show. And I was thinking, oh my God, if only I could go get into this party, but I know that his security is not going to let me in, because obviously I'm a nobody. I'm a 17-year-old, fan. And, but I walked up to his security and, started talking to him, to the guard. And as we're talking, Emmanuel Lewis walks out. Remember Emmanuel Webster? Yeah. So he starts like being friendly with me and kind of flirting. Yeah. And so he's like, oh yeah, I'll tell Michael you said hi. And I was like, okay, well, can you get us in? He was like, well, let me see what I can do. And so he went back in, but while he was in there, his security guard, was being very nice to me. And I was begging the security. I was like, please let me in. If you let me in, God will bless you for the rest of your life, I promise. And so for some reason, he let me in to Michael's room, to this party where, all the A-listers of the 80s who were in New York at that time. And that was the first time I met Michael. I walked in, Michael was standing there with Jimmy Jam was actually on the piano playing the baby grand piano that was in Michael's suite. And Michael was standing there, and I was like, oh my God. And the second I walked into his room, Michael spotted me and waved. And I looked behind me. I was like, I know he's not waving at me because he doesn't even know me, but he was waving at me. So I waved back, and because he waved at me, that like opened up the whole room to me, because everyone thought he knew me. They were like, oh, well, she must be his friend if he waved at her. So I was good. And I was sitting on the sofa. Quincy Jones came and sat next to me, and we were chatting it up and stuff. But I didn't have the guts to go over to Michael and like introduce myself. The whole night I was trying to get up the nerve to do it. And finally, I was standing there, and Michael walks over to me and introduces himself to me. And he says, hi, I'm Michael. I was like, of course you're Michael. Okay. So then again, he wasn't shy. Even from that first moment, he made the first move. So he walked over to me, reached out his hand and introduced himself, and I grabbed his hand and shook it. And then when I went to let go of his hand, he kept holding on to my hand and slid it all the way down like that. And I was in love. I was like, oh my. I was like, okay, Michael's not gay. He's not weird. He likes women. From that little gesture, I knew that, you know, a lot of the things that had been in the press wasn't true at all, you know, because here this man is flirting with me and no one is around to see it. This is like real life stuff. So from that moment on, I loved him. You know, he was just so much more than I had ever dreamed, just in that one moment. And so that was about 5 years before I got the job, before I even moved to Hollywood. Yeah. I was still a high school student at that time. And so fast forward, I get this job with him. And so then he comes into the office about a year after we had been speaking, and his manager introduced us, and he told Michael that I was his biggest fan. And I was so embarrassed because I didn't want him to think of me as a fan, you know, and I certainly didn't want him to know that I had walked up 50 flights of stairs to meet him that first time. So I didn't say anything, but then the manager, you know, spilled the beans by saying, oh, this is Shana. She's your biggest fan. I was like, thanks a lot.